Sometimes people want to change their name legally. That's understandable. That's a normal thing. But something that's really strange and bizarre is why would anyone want to have two separate sets of name on two separate passports? We're talking about dual citizenship here, right? Or triple citizenship. So let's say you are trying to acquire a new passport or you already have a new passport. Why would anyone want two separate set of names? Won't this complicate life? Won't this make your life more difficult? Won't this cause headache? Is this legal? Is this allowed? What are the countries? What is the easiest country in the world that permits this by right? Okay, the country provides rights to its citizens to change their name easily and legally. And when you are changing your names, two things are very important. First thing is, what is the reason why rich people or wealthy people, not all, but a lot of them, would want to have a separate set of names across different passports? Now, the first question that comes to mind is that, is this even legal? Is this a thing? Does it make any sense? And while I'm discussing all of these things, right, none of this information is legal, tax, finance advice. This is purely my own research, what I'm finding out, what I'm reading, what I'm seeing. If you're thinking of doing any of this stuff, right, always consult an attorney of the jurisdiction where you're trying to change your name. Now, let's come back to this discussion. I'm also going to discuss some alternate countries that allow this, situations where this could be warranted, situations where this could be justifiable, right? The second interesting thing is, what are the advantages? Why would a wealthy person legally want to have this kind of a setup? What are the unique legal strategic advantages of having a portfolio with multiple passports, different names? I'm going to discuss that. What is the profile of the person trying to seek this? Of course, these are high net worth individuals. Now, do Tom, Dick, and Harry's ask about this? Absolutely, they do ask about this, and that is more of prep towards being high net worth. Or let's say you're in the crypto space and you're trying to make big and you're trying to seek some protection, some privacy legally done, right, to protect yourself. There's a lot of tracking and crazy stuff going on, and when the country does it, it's legal because, of course, the country can do pretty much what they want. They can tax their citizens around the globe. That's perfectly legal. That's perfectly fine. They can track their citizens. They can hunt down their citizens for various reasons. And that's perfectly the country's legality, right? They're their laws. They can do it. That's fine. But the moment you do it, again, you got to follow the country's norms and that kind of good stuff. Now, let's cut the chase and directly look at some of the reasons why people resort to this kind of a practice. Having different names across passports, often through legal name changes in different jurisdictions, can provide strategic advantages depending on the individual's goals. Now, we'll get to the goals, but let's continue. While not illegal, if properly documented and declared, this practice can be used for various practical, cultural, or strategic reasons. Here's why someone might do this and the potential advantages. This is very important. Privacy and security. This is a topic that almost all of you guys watching care about, are concerned about, whether you are wealthy or not yet wealthy. Maybe you get wealthy in future, but security and privacy is a personal matter. Some take it very, very seriously. Using different names can help compartmentalize personal and professional lives or reduce the risk of identity tracking. When the government does identity tracking, that's legal. When you're trying to track someone, maybe that's stalking. So there's a difference, right? You got to look at who's doing it, and then of course you got to use some brains and got to understand what is going on, right? For instance, someone with a high profile business passport might use a different name on a second passport to travel discreetly. Traveling discreetly is not a crime. It's not illegal, right? It's a thing that a lot of people do. Avoid unwanted attention or targeted risk like kidnapping or harassment, right? Someone is illegally trying to stalk you, harass you, track you. You want to travel discreetly, right? You have a right to protect yourself and you want to travel discreetly legally, then this is permissible. A 2023 report by Henley and Partners, a big firm, right? Everyone knows H&P. They cost a fortune. They're a good company for a reason. Noted that high net worth individuals often seek second citizenships for security and name variations can add a layer of anomaly. The second one is very interesting, right? And this is where some citizenship by exception countries, right, and not all, right, and there's some specific reasons. For example, Serbia, you could have a native Serbian twist to your name, or let's say you are doing a Turkey has a native script, you can have your Turkish version. Some African countries that provide citizenship by exception, there could be a cultural African flavor, African twist, there could be a local engagement, and I'll get to that in a lot of detail. Let's first go through what they have to say, and then we can analyze our personal thoughts on this. Cultural or social adaptation. Some individuals adjust their names to better fit cultural norms in different regions. So let's say you're a Tom Cruise in Nepal and you stand out right the moment someone reads your name. It's like, hey, Tom Cruise. Maybe they've not seen the real one. Maybe they're seeing you for the first time and they think you're that celebrity. So in that case, someone might think a local twist to my name so that it blends in well. Something like that, right? People have crazy, weird reasons why they feel a cultural twist is important or required. For example, someone might use a westernized name on a European passport for easier integration in the Schengen area while retaining a traditional name on another passport for use in their home country or regions like China or Russia. So often the Russians will have a Russian name. Chinese always, 90% of all the Chinese have a couple of variations. One is for China, the Chinese name, and second is for the world, right? An English name, right? So that is a common practice in some countries. So let's say you're trying to use two names and your other name, which is an English name, just does not have any place, it doesn't have any legality, and you want to legitimize that. So legally, for proper reasons, you always held a couple of names. So you want a passport which also shows your English name. So that could be a valid justification if done correctly. It has to be done correctly. And at any point in time, right, you want to have more questions about a specific jurisdiction, you're trying to do a citizenship by exception, and you have some questions. We have attorneys that can clarify your doubts. You can always click the link, book a call. This comes across. Of course, we can have a chat and then escalate your queries to the attorney. The attorney is very important. Always do anything and everything after discussing this with an attorney. Never take my word for it because I'm simply reading stuff that I'm researching. This can reduce discrimination or bias. Some people get persecuted illegally because they're from a certain place. If you change your name, maybe you can save your life. That could be a possible reason to escape persecution in a particular country. You're trying to do it for a valid reason. So this could be advantageous if done legally. Studies from a 2021 study from the University of Toronto show that foreign sounding names can lead to fewer job callbacks in Western countries. So if you have a Western name, you're doing a job, it blends well, they can pronounce it well, they can hire you well. If they typically find a name that's the length of an address, they can't pronounce it, they don't like you. In some cases, some people do that, right? They just don't like your name, they don't want to hire you, they don't want to deal with you, you're a complete foreigner, you're not one of them. But let's say you're a Tom or a Tommy, then maybe, it's easy for them to pronounce. Maybe they like your face, they like your name, and there you go, you could get hired. Let's see number 3, business and financial flexibility. Different names can help manage business identities across borders. For example, an entrepreneur might use a name tied to a local identity in UK for business dealings there, while using another name in Caribbean citizenship like St. Kitts and Nevis to access offshore banking benefits. This can also help navigate financial regulations. Some countries impose restrictions based on identity, and a different name might avoid scrutiny or simplify compliance. A thread on X early 2025 mentioned how dual citizens use name variations to manage assets in jurisdictions with strict capital controls like China. Fourth one is travel and visa advantages. Name variations can help bypass travel restrictions or biases. For instance, a person might use a passport with a less flagged name to avoid scrutiny when entering countries like China or Russia, where geopolitical tensions might lead to profiling, right? Because of your name, you might get profiled and you might genuinely be scared. Additionally, if one name is associated with a visa denial, having a different name legally on another passport might avoid automatic red flags in the visa system, though this depends depends on whether the countries share biometric data. Biometric is not the friend of a lot of people, because once you have the biometric, you capture the thumbprint, that's when it's all gone, right? Your names don't matter. Your biometrics really shows up all your name variations, all the funky stuff that you would do with other parameters. You should never do stuff. You should try to avoid any kind of foolishness with DOBs and POBs. Those, keep it what it is. Changing all of those across different documents is complete fraud. Try to stay away from it. But when it comes to biometrics, things can get a little challenging. But this is not so much of an issue where countries don't deal with much of biometric stuff. They're not grown to that extent. I'll get to that in a bit in the video. The fifth reason why people legally might think of this is legal and tax optimization. In some cases, name variations can be part of a broader strategy to manage tax or legal liabilities. For example, a person might use one name for a passport tied to a low tax jurisdiction, example Caribbean citizenships, while use another name in a high tax jurisdiction like the EU to separate financial identities. While this does not inherently evade taxes, it can complicate tracing by authorities if done legally and with proper disclosure. A 2024 article from Bloomberg highlighted how dual citizens sometimes use legal name changes to manage estate planning across jurisdictions. It's not uncommon to legally have estates across multiple jurisdictions, and when you're trying to play with this kind of stuff, this is playing with fire. As long as you know how to deal with fire, we're doing it legally, then people obviously manage this. Now, we talked about the strategic advantages. Now, does this come with risks and complications? Absolutely it does, and this is also equally important to consider. You've heard all the good stuff. Let's hear some of the not so good stuff. Risk and considerations. This strategy requires careful legal compliance. Most countries require you to declare all passports and name changes when applying for citizenships or visas. So when you're trying to do that, you're going to complicate your life, right? You got to play this safe. For instance, the EU and UK have strict identity verification process, and discrepancies can lead to delays or denials. Additionally, countries like China, Russia may not recognize dual citizenship, and inconsistent names could raise suspicions of fraud. A 2025 post on X mentioned a case where someone was detained in Russia due to mismatched passport names, though the details were unverified. In summary, using different names across passports can offer strategic advantages in privacy, cultural integration, business, and travel, but it must be done legally and with full transparency to avoid complications. Now, let's come back to the fun part of this video. What is the easiest country that allows this legally, right? You can easily walk into a court system, get your name changed, and you have full rights to do it whenever you want, however you want, and that is the United States of America. US allows name changes pretty easily. What are some of the other situations, right? So let's say you're doing a CBI in Turkey, you have that, but that's a very expensive program without much gains out of that, and it could be a hassle dealing with the Turkish system. There are countries where citizenship by exception happens. You're an exceptional person. You have some cultural association. There's a cultural reason, right? You're connected to the society. You're contributing to the society. So you have some honorary status, right? That could be a reason why you would want to have a name change across that citizenship by exception country. So there could be a valid reason, and valid reason is really up to you. And then of course that has to make sense. It just can't be arbitrary. You should know, if someone asked you, why would you want to have a new name? You should have a legal and a valid reason to justify that, and then of course talk to an attorney, confirm all of this stuff. Don't gamble, don't be stupid about this. If you're wealthy, then do consult with an attorney once you do all of this, or before you do all of this. That's very important. Citizenship by exception, you could have a very specific reason why you would want to have an African spin. Maybe your ancestors came from there, maybe you have some local connections, maybe there's some cultural fascination or association with a particular African region, maybe you have some security threat while traveling to there from your home country. Your home country might be draconian, they might be trying to hunt you down, or whatever the reason might be. As long as you have documented that reason, you have situations where this can be perfectly legally done. Very important thing over here, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because that helps me get you valuable content. This comes on demand. I check your comments, I read your comments, I pay attention to who says what, right? So if you feel that this channel adds value and it's informative to you and it's helping you understand this stuff, then make sure you're subscribed. It helps me grow and helps me get you more content. Share your thoughts in the comments below about this topic. What do you think? Should one look at such kind of stuff, or one should keep it simple, keep the same name across all your passport? This strategy ain't good. It's way too much thinking. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and catch you in this very important next video. If you haven't seen this, definitely check this one out. All right, see you in this one.